Hey everyone, it's Tom here again. Welcome to Sight Club. I just wanted to record a brief message to everyone today. It's August the 29th, 2020. Actually, technically, it's August the 30th here in London, but it's still August the 29th in America and in other parts of the world. So it's the early hours of the morning here on Sunday, August the 30th here in London, but like I say, out across America and even further beyond, like Alaska and Hawaii, part of the United States, and even as far as Midway, it's still Saturday evening, August 29th. So I just had some things to share. Those of you that watched my last episode with Charlie Ward on the Charlie Ward Show back on Wednesday, we did our fourth episode, part 4 together, and it was entitled Judgment Day. And that's quite apt because that's what today is. So if you cast your mind back to the Terminator 2 film in particular, Judgment Day is classed as August 29th. Now, in that episode I did with Charlie, some interesting things came up, and I made reference to 3 words that add up to the total value of 60. The first one being diamond, the second one being orange, and the third one being grant. And I said, if you add an S to all of those, it takes the value of those words up to 79, which is atomic gold. But the important part, the thing I wanted to make a highlight of today was, well, this evening I should say, or this morning depending where we are, is orange. I said the word orange at 16 minutes and 13 seconds. Now if you add 16 plus 13, that actually comes to 29, August 29th. You see the connection there. The other part about that is August. So AuG, the abbreviation for August, is a combination, it's like a blend of Au, which is the chemical formula for gold, which comes to 22. So A is 1, U is 21. So 1 plus 21 is 22. And then A plus G is the atomic, it's the chemical symbol for silver. And that A plus G comes to 8. So that's 1 plus 7. Now the interesting thing about that is if you AU is 22 plus G is 7, so 22 plus 7 comes to 29. So when you actually see the value of August 29, you're actually looking at 2929. Now, another thing with that is today, President Trump gave an address. He gave 2 addresses actually, so he's getting around the US quite a bit, quite quickly as well. And the one that I was watching, he was speaking in Orange County in Texas. So Orange, of all places. I don't know his schedule. No one knows his schedule. You can't see, if you look on the White House website, you can't see further than the actual day's events taking place that day. You can't see that. So I was quite surprised and pleasantly surprised when I saw that. The other place he spoke at was Lake Charles. So you can see a connection there. Charlie Ward Show, Lake Charles. Lake Charles actually comes up to the value of, so Lake again is 29, Charles is 66. All numbers are good numbers, so 66 is actually a positive angel love number. And if you add 29 plus 66, that takes you to 95, and that goes along with the theme of 95, the N95 masks that people are wearing. This isn't a mask, this is a bandana. I don't wear a mask, but this is for communication purposes and for visual props. As I did the other day, because I highlighted that I was wearing a orange polo shirt underneath my navy sweater. So I made reference to that, but I've got the orange on again today. And Berlin as well comes to 60. So orange is 60 and Berlin is 60, and there were some things in Berlin that happened today as well, which is all around the 29th, etc. So there's quite a lot of cross parallels and wonderful loops that are happening. So yeah, so Lake Charles, 29 plus 66 comes to 95. 95, if you break it down, comes to 40 plus 55. So 55 is a clear signal, so either 10, which is 2 5s, or more commonly 25, so 5 times 5 is 25, or the biggest one and most clear of all is 5 5, so 55. As I've said before, Melania Trump, her name Melania, is a 55. So 40 is 2 20s. We're in the year of 2020, and as I've said previously, but for those new viewers, if you work out on the 24-hour clock, the value 20, the hour 20, on the 12-hour clock is represented by the number 8. So 2020 is equivalent of 88. So that's 88 plus 55, which is a lovely thing to think about. So going on further, so 95, and then the masks, MASKS, comes to the value of 63, which is a lovely thought and representation for Kennedy, because that's when he passed, JFK. But if you total all of that up together, so 29, 66 plus 95, that comes to the value of 158. Now 158, if you break that down and you do 1 times 58, you get 58. Now 58, if you divide that by 2, that's 29, and 29, you get 2 lots of 29. So it's August 29. So you can see where I'm going with this. The other thing is President Trump, as I said, just spoke at Orange County. Now Orange County, so Orange is 60, and county comes to 98. Now if you add those two together, that adds to 158. 158 again, as I said before, is 1 times 58. You break that down into 2, or 2 29s adds to 58. So again, there's all of this going on. So all the things are being put in front of our eyes if we want to decode it and use Trumpology, the version of numerology that he's using. I like to call it Trumpology. And you can see all these things in plain sight. Some other things in regards to August 29 and the Terminator films is, I've mentioned before, but I wanted to recap on it. So the character John Connor and his mother Sarah Connor, the word John, John, adds up to 47, which is atomic silver. Also the word Sarah, in his mother's case, Sarah, also adds up to 47. So both John and Sarah are atomic silver. Now their surname in the movies is Connor, Connor, and that comes to 79, which is gold. So you can see John Connor is silver, gold. Sarah Connor is silver, gold. Now Kyle Reese, who was the character in the first Terminator film, he came from the future, from 2029. So you've got another 29 there. And he came back to the year 1984. Now, if you go back from 2029 all the way back to 1984, that actually comes up to 55 years. So a lovely, loud and clear signal again. Alternately, or additionally, I should say, if you go forward to the Terminator 2 film, T2, which is the big, they're both great, but personally T2 is my favourite. So that was released in 1991. Okay, so 1991, if you fast forward to today, that's 29 years ago. So it was released in August in England, I believe, in 1991, and I think it was released a little earlier in maybe July or June in the US. But the US, the UK, it was launched in August of 1991, and it ran in cinemas for a number of weeks and months. And I remember going and seeing it with a friend of mine, Ledge. So if you're there, Ledge, hey. But you fast forward, like I said, from 1991 to now, that's 29 years ago. So August 29th, 1991, which was today, or is today across the globe still, just past here in England, but in the US, across the Atlantic into the Pacific, it's still August 29. So you can see that was 29 years ago, which again is another lovely piece of symmetry. And I just wanted to make note of those things, because it's really, like I said in my end of my video with Charlie a few days ago, it could be a really big day. One of the things that President Trump did make reference to a couple times in his address at Orange County was the whole thing of time differences, where you are on the globe. They made reference to that twice. Now, back on August the 8th, which was 8/8, I spoke about how in Back to the Future 3, Emmett Brown, right at the end of the episode of the film, they're on the train, the Trump train, and one of the carriages at the end says Central Pacific 7. So Central Pacific 7 is a reference to Hawaii, because Hawaii has 8 islands, but 7 of them are inhabited. And the dialing code, interestingly enough, for Hawaii is 808. So 8. So they made that reference to time differences. So I figured that out. I thought about that back on the 8th, when Trump basically let us know when he was potting the snooker and the pool balls, that they'd gone back to the gold and silver standard, and that was the soft disclosure. 3 weeks after that, so 21 or 7, 7/7, 3 sevens, 21. The Shin ties into JFK, into President Trump, into to Greg, and to other things. That's the Shin. That's 21 days later. It could be 21 years. It could be any number of 21. But in this case, from the 8th of August up to the 29th of August is 21 days, and 29 can give you another 8. So 2 9s are 18. 18 is 1 and 8. So if you times 8 by 1, you end up with 8. So August 29th can also be an 8, as well as being in the month of August. So 8/8, that magic infinity number. Just as we know that President Trump's name, so TRUMP, adds up to 88. And incidentally, his middle name is John, so silver, and his first name, as we know, is Donald, which is 50. So that represents the US states and other things, but particularly the US states. So I just wanted to share those things. I also, just in part, I also have seen Tenet a couple of times. Now, I love Christopher Nolan's films. As with most of them, I have to watch them a number of times for it all to kind of sink in. So the second time I watched it, I absorbed more. But there's some great Q references in there. I won't spoil it for anyone, but there's a great scene in regards to gold with an aeroplane, you'll see, which looked very similar to President Trump's address yesterday. I think it was in Manchester. Manchester, I think it was, in New Hampshire. There was another town, I can't think of the name of it now, but there were 2. Oh, Londonderry, that's it, Londonderry, so kind of British names. But I think it was in Manchester, but there was one where he was on the tarmac and he was speaking behind a plane, and there was kind of a yellow background, kind of the ground or yellowy grass or something, not corn, but it looked like that. It was like a yellow band, which was quite symbolic, and I'm sure all part of the meticulous preparation. So that happened there yesterday. So in regards to Tenet, there's also some beautiful Q references. There's also something to do with looking at how would you say it? Something to do with an 0800 number, but not in the way you would think. It's a British sign for water, I believe it is. It's H and then 100 or 1 over 100. I've seen them all the time, but I can't even remember exactly what it is, but people will know what I'm talking about. So H is 8, and then 100 is 100. And then there's the 1, so 1/800 number as well, or an 0800 number for, I guess, England, but 1-800 is for the US. So those that follow Q will know what I'm talking about with that. I'm losing my marker here. I'm going to have to keep it back, tie it back on. See, I'm not used to wearing this. I used to wear bandanas. I've got quite a few, so you might see a few others come out depending on how the trump codes go. But yeah, definitely go and see Tenet. It's a great film, and one of the main principles, well, the key principle is about reversing time, but doing that through going backwards. And some interesting things that President Trump has been doing. He's been pardoning people, so people that have had sentences, maybe some of them, one he said that was the lady yesterday, no fault of her own, so he pardoned her. So he's reversing time. This whole 8chan, 4chan thing with Q, this is beginning to take place, and I believe this will actually take place. This will start on this date now, and probably at the end of the American timeline, so i.e. kind of out by Hawaii or Alaska, even further, maybe out to Medway. Incidentally, there was that film Medway last year, which I've mentioned before. But also, I don't know if everything's going to go like that. I kind of hope it would, but I don't know. It could be just a soft transition, as President Trump has spoken about the transition to greatness. Everything is kind of to get everyone across the goal line. So some other things that I think could be interesting is perhaps from this point, 29th of August, there could be another 88-day section, which takes us up to November the 25th. One of the things that Robert Pattinson spoke about in the Tenet movie, this isn't giving anything away, but he mentions a line in the film and he says, we're just halfway, meaning in terms of the journey, saying, well, if they're reversing, they've got to go back as well. So if you look at a timeline, it could be that this August 29th is another bounce of 88 days onwards. I don't know for sure, but it kind of makes sense that that could be the case. So maybe things will get to where they need to by that point, which would be November the 25th. So it takes us past the election, closer to December and to the next year. So we'll see. But there's some of my thoughts, some of the things that I've noticed, some of the things that have come up. In closing, so traffic lights. President Trump spoke about saying that they're good to go today, said that a lot of times. And there was a load of words that were referenced to 58 or 29. There are others, there are plenty of 8s and 64s, which would be 6 times 64 is 8 times 8, etc. So there was a lot of those. I made quite a big list, but there was a lot of them. But something I noted was, so he said, they're ready to go, which is a great signal. So if you think of the analogy of orange, so I thought about it a few days ago, and President Trump's obviously planned that for a long time and ended up in Orange County today. So orange can be synonymous with amber. So if you think of traffic lights, the US ones I think are slightly different. Maybe they're not, I think they might be. But here in the UK we've got red, amber or orange and green. So red is the value of 27, so that ties in with Egyptian kingship, etc. that we've spoken about before. Amber is 39. So if you think 40, 88 is almost like a time or a clock. So 39 is the last digit before we get to 40. So before we get to 40 or 2020 or 88. And there were quite a few names that came up as well, and nouns, etc. Other words that came up to the value of 87 in President Trump's address today, which I took note of. So this whole feeling of we're getting very close to either 40, which would be a complete circle or cycle, or getting to 88, hence getting from 87. And then the references to 60, so orange. So 60 is 60 minutes. So they're basically saying we're there. So hopefully we are. That would be wonderful. But if you add up 27, 39, so yeah, 27, red for 27, or 27 for red, 39 for amber, green, 49 for green, that comes to 115. So 115, if you add the 1 to the 15, you get 16. Again, 16 is 2 8s, so again a lovely reference to 8 8. And then if you think of the word go, kind of when your marks get set, go, or go through the green traffic light, which I think is probably the case in most countries, then go comes to 22, which is a reference to the chemical symbol for gold, which is AU. Thanks very much, guys. I hope to speak with you soon, and hopefully the next, well, between now and the next 12, 24 hours, who knows, maybe we could see some major things. Or maybe it would just be beautiful things, but just in a soft way. Either way, we're getting there. But have a great bank holiday if you're here in the UK, and wherever you are around the world. Blessings and love. Thank you to the Trumps, particularly Potus, to Q and to everyone else. And shout out to Charlie. We'll do an episode again soon. And big love to everybody. So thank you. Take care. Good night or good morning. Bye bye.